Welcome to another episode of Involving Element. I'm here with.
Feifei, and I'm here today to talk about my fitness journey so far.
Wow, that is awesome. I can't wait to jump into this. Where should we begin? Where should we begin in this journey? Show us.
I guess from the beginning of quarantine. So I've always been a dancer growing up. I've done ballet. I did a little bit of ballroom in college, and then I moved into some heels dancing. So I've always had physical activity. In my life, but I've never been like one of those like heavy gym goers doing weightlifting or any of that stuff. But I guess in the beginning of this year, I had a couple of big trips planned for the summer. I was actually going to go climb Kilimanjaro. Obviously, that didn't happen. But yeah, I was like, let me just get into shape to do this. I also was going to travel to Europe as well. So I was like, I don't know, maybe like 2 weeks into my gym routine. And then that's when COVID hit, and then everything just closed down.
Wow, talk about a total vibe kill right there. You
I
had so
know.
many
I
good
was like,
things going for you. All right.
mm-hmm.
So if we could just backtrack a little bit. You said dancing was been the root of most of your existence here on planet Earth.
Yes.
Tell us about that. What inspired
That's a good question. I mean, I've always been dancing like ever since I was a little girl. I was born in China, and so I started off with like Chinese folk dancing back home, and then when I came to the United States, that's when I kind of switched over to ballet. But it's always been pretty recreational for me. I would go like maybe once a week, and that was it. And it was just some sort of form of physical activity that I was doing throughout high school, and I also joined like a modern dance team in high school as well. And then it wasn't until college really that I got more serious for me when I started competing in ballroom. And yeah, so I danced ballroom competitively for about 5 to 6 years, which was really fun. Um, and I think that's when I started to realize my true passion for dance and being able to connect to the music and feel your body moving the way that the music flows. And I think that's like such a powerful skill to have. I guess growing up, I've never really thought about dance being um, a major part of my life, if that makes sense. Like it was always a hobby, and I was always raised to be like my career is my career and my hobbies are my hobbies. So I never really thought about using dance or using physical activity to do something more with it. Um, but the more I did it, the more I realized my passion for it. And the more I was like, you know what, like, why do I have to restrict myself to just doing? So I'm an engineer by day. So it's like, why do I just have to do engineering?
that?
And that's it. Like I could do multiple things, and there's multiple things in life that make me happy. So I think that's kind of really what jump started my motivation to start trying out new things. I've explored a lot of different types of dance as well, and they're all different. So it's really interesting because I have, my ballet fundamental background, but
Mhm.
every type of dance that you try, there's just a different aspect to it, and there's a different relationship to the music and to your body, and it brings out like a different emotion in you. So I think that's really awesome. Like you can never get bored of dancing. Yeah, I don't know.
Wow. What better hobby to get involved in? That's amazing. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's healthy. It's a great way to express yourself, and it's also a way to just meet other people who share the same passion. You said
Hmm.
ballroom dancing. I can see myself just stepping over everyone's feet. And, the first couple of months or years. You said you did it for 5 years. That's impressive. I just imagine that you are like a perfect example of what balance looks like in like a physical sense, like of not just losing yourself. And I know that's something you probably train, um, or maybe it came naturally to you. I'm not too sure. Maybe you can tell me, but that's amazing. Like that's a great metaphor just for life, to just be able to know that you can balance X, Y, and Z, and also do it in relationship to your partner, right? Your physical
Hmm.
dance
Right.
partner who's relying on you to make that move at that particular precise moment. And it's like, why not use that as a metaphor for the rest of my life, right? So you said, let me
Yeah,
start
I love
doing
that.
other things, which is cool. And you said you're an
Hmm.
engineer by
Yes.
day. Okay, can you break
Yes.
can you break this down? Because most time engineers aren't like professional dancers. So can you help us out understand that a little bit?
Yeah, so I actually work for a civil engineering company. So our company does design work for commercial buildings. So I actually do 3D modeling for like mechanical equipment and mechanical systems that go into commercial and residential buildings. So it's very different from dance. I also majored in operations research, which is essentially just like applied math. Um, and I've always been kind of a math sciencey type of person in terms of academics, and that's kind of where I've always seen my path going in terms of my professional life. And I think it's actually funny that you mentioned how different engineering and dance is. I feel like I actually see a lot of engineers in dance, and I think it's because like one side of our brain has worked so hard during the day that we need something to release it on the other side, and it's like it's kind of this give and take. And of course, I never started off with like perfect balance or anything like that. It takes a lot of training and just
Discipline, right?
But, yeah.
Wow. I mean, you're both of your brains are fired up. So one is working, and the other one's taking a break right now, and that's great. As a creative myself, I'm always looking for something mathematical or something like just something technical to do, like something with my hands or something. I'm not that good at it, but it's if you call writing technical, then I guess that's kind of like my wiggle way through it. But that's interesting because I would have never thought in a million years. I've worked with engineers before. In a college level, and I was there basically as like you could say a secretary, just handling their notes, making sure their presentations look nice, and helping them with their speech when they gave well, speeches, right? So that was my role working with them. But I always noticed that they were super curious in what I was doing, and I started getting super curious about what they were up to. So they were working with Arduinos, and they were working with algorithms and stuff at the time, and programming, and the robotics team was like right next door. So we were like, I used to pick up a lot of that stuff, and I'd be like, wow, that is really interesting how this can translate into that. So I know 3D printing is a lot different, or you could tell me what the difference really are, because I'll be honest with you, I don't really know. But 3D printing is a huge thing nowadays, especially in multiple fields, health, the list goes on. Space aeronautics, I mean, that's something. Is there something about 3D printing that you were attracted to, or just happened to fall into that particular role because of your background?
So I actually don't do 3D printing. It's we do 3D modeling of buildings. So, for example, like we have the architectural model for a certain building, and then we would need to calculate how much air and how much water is required for each individual room of the building, and then based on calculation. So these calculations will come from either New York State code or the country code. There's like minimal code requirements for the amount of air and the water that is needed to circulate through, if it's like a residential hotel or apartment versus an office building. They require like completely different types of mechanical equipment. So we just do the actual modeling inside of software so that you see like all the ductwork and the piping that's going throughout the building, and then the contractors are able to pick that up and model it in real life. So.
Okay, my mind's exploded right now. Like I'm very interested in this now. I'm just curious, like you have this 3D model inside of a computer system. Is it a joint effort, or is it like one person that works on it? How do people work on it?
It's definitely a joint effort. So it's synced to a cloud. So all of the elements in the model are connected. So if you move one element, it'll tell you if someone else already has ownership of that element, and then you wouldn't be able to move it unless someone else syncs the model and releases the element. So that's kind of how I guess it would be similar to like if you're working in a Google Doc or something like that. So everyone's working at it together and then syncing it to the cloud. And that's kind of how we get things done. So I work in the mechanical department. So as I talked about, that's like the air and the water requirements. We also have electrical department for, lighting and all that stuff. And there's plumbing and there's structure and everything. So there's a ton of different trades and a ton of different contractors that go into the design of a building.
So how long would it take, like more or less, for all this to get packaged and then delivered to, say, the constructors, I guess, or the folks who are actually going to physically build this thing?
It depends on the size of the project, but I would say at least a year. For most, regular buildings. Although during the height of COVID, we actually did do some redesigning of gymnasiums and hotel rooms into like COVID compliant hospitals, which was pretty cool. And we had to get that done in like a week, because it was like a really high turnover rate. So it would just be like changing up whatever we could inside the existing system to make it compliant with, housing COVID patients. So.
Right. Wow, that's so
Yeah.
cool. Like, we before COVID, we didn't think that we would be doing anything related to
Hmm.
something like that. But man, that
For
must have
sure.
been a interesting transition. What was like the first week for you, like just for lockdown? Like, what was that like for you? Just understanding it and realizing it, like, oh damn, this is a thing.
Yeah, it was actually really funny. So, one of my friends was staying over with me over the weekends because we were studying together. And I remember that weekend, she was like, I'm just gonna chill here for a couple of days. And we're like, okay, let's just go to the gym together the next morning. So then the next morning comes, and then that's kind of when things started to shut down. And then we were like, oh no, like what's happening? And then I was like, should I start working from home? And so that's when I was working from home. And then she was like, yeah, maybe I'll just hang out here for a couple of days, like wait for this whole COVID thing to die down, and then
Hmm.
we'll just go back to normal. And then I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever, that's fine. And obviously that didn't happen in the span of 3 days. So we actually ended up getting quarantined together for like 3 weeks, because she lives. So I live near Port Authority, and she lives down in Brooklyn. So it's
Hmm.
kind of a far trek. And at that time, we just didn't know what the situation was like outside. So she was
Hmm.
kind of afraid to leave the house and take public transportation to go back home.
Hmm.
So I was like, just stay with me for a couple of weeks. She had to like go to the store to buy clothes and stuff. But I'm actually really grateful that she ended up staying with me, because I know that it was such a difficult time for everyone to all of a sudden be in lockdown, not see anyone
Hmm.
for months, at a time. That's when we kind of jump started our fitness schedule, and we started designing home workouts, looking up YouTube videos. So that's how we discovered Blogilates. There's Pamela Reeve, Chloe Ting, all of the YouTube fitness gurus out there. And I think that if we hadn't been quarantined together, it would have been really difficult to immediately start going on Zoom and start doing virtual workouts together. So in hindsight, it was actually a blessing that that happened, and I don't think I would be where I am today if that wasn't the case.
Wow, shout out to your friend for getting quarantined. That's awesome. And it paid off for both of you. I'm assuming health wise, and then
Hmm.
also just just monetary, hopefully. But
Yeah,
that's cool. I mean, and plus you're helping people, so it's you get three of the best worlds there. You're helping
yeah,
yourself, helping your wallet, and you're helping other people in the process. I know
yeah.
that you have something special coming this weekend. This is your first live. Is it Zoom, or is it like, how is this going to roll out?
So it's actually going to be an outdoor class at Bryant Park, and it's going to be my first official workout class as a certified trainer for Pit 28. So I'm really excited about that. Um, and I'm just going to explain briefly about what Pit
Sure.
28 is. So it was founded by Cassie Ho, who is also the founder of Blogilates, which she's just a YouTube fitness guru, and it's a combination of Pilates and HIIT workout moves. So it's a 28-minute workout, and it targets the entire body. So it's kind of like a variable intensity interval training workout. So instead of going high intensity for the entire duration, you have these Pilates inspired strength moves that are intertwined, so that you kind of have a little bit of breathing room and a little bit of active recovery before you go back into the high intensity cardio moves. So, yeah.
Okay, so intense definitely should be like in bolded letters, right?
Yes,
You will sweat during this exercise, right? And why else would
definitely.
you be here if you're not going to sweat? Okay.
Hmm.
So like you said, you were already preparing for this big like hike, right? This big
Oh,
climb,
yeah.
right? And so you were kind of like in the mindset of doing that. Is there any advice that you give someone who's thinking about taking part in, like, for example, your weekend activity? What kind of
Mhm.
advice would you give them if they're just mentally? Because I know it must take time to just mentally prepare for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I think that you should just come with an open mind, and I'll always be showing modifications for all the moves. So like don't be like, oh, I can't do the moves, and like I'm so intimidated because I don't have a fitness background. Everyone starts from the beginning, and it's okay to be at a different level from someone else, as long as you see your own personal growth and you're taking that first step to do something good for yourself. And then, like, at the end of the
Mm,
day, comparing yourself to your past self is the only thing that matters, and you shouldn't really be comparing to other people. So
okay. So this is a
Yeah.
good this is a good step into a good way to introduce yourself to something brand new fitness wise.
Hmm.
Because a lot of people make resolutions and they just never go anywhere,
Yeah.
right? They start
Yeah.
1 week and it feels great, and then oh wait, something came up, and then goes downhill
Yeah,
from there. So
exactly.
what would you say would keep what keeps you motivated throughout this whole process? You seem like you have a lot of optimism built in within you already, instilled.
Hmm.
Um, what do you think contributes to that? If you can elaborate, maybe.
I think one of the biggest thing is having a workout buddy. I think that it really helps in terms of keeping yourself accountable. When you're doing things for yourself, sometimes it's easy to just be like, oh, whatever, like I'll just do it tomorrow. No one is judging me except for myself, so it's okay. But if you have someone else there who is also pushing you and also pushing themselves, it kind of gives you guys both this motivating factor to continue going. And another thing that really helps is to have a specific goal in mind, whether that's a trip that you're taking or, um, I don't know, like a specific fitness, like maybe you want to do one pull up and that's your fitness goal, and you're
Hmm.
working and you're doing exercises to get to that goal. And I think that helps a lot to keep yourself in check and to be like, all right, this is how much I've progressed so far from the beginning.
That's cool. And you being on Instagram or just social media altogether,
Hmm.
that rush of dopamine that you get when you get a like, right? Would you say would you say working out is similar to that, or is it even better?
Oh, I think it's so much better.
Okay, good. All
For
right.
sure.
All right. You
Yeah.
heard that, audience? It's better. Get out there. But that's
Yeah,
cool.
for sure.
Hmm.
When you're working out, your heart rate is going up, you're doing something good for your body, especially now during quarantine when most people are kind of just confined in their apartments for the entire day. You might not even be going outside for fresh air. And that's really draining for the body for sure. There are times when I don't go out for a few days and then I get really dizzy and lightheaded and I'm like, oh, what's happening? So it's always good to keep yourself physically fit, even if it's just for, a walk around the block. Um, or some light yoga or stretching, anything that gets you moving and gets your blood flowing
Get your blood
will
flowing.
make you feel really good. Yeah.
I like what you said there. Like even going for a walk can be something that is a start, or it's
Hmm.
something, right? But being confined
Yeah.
into our house, breathing the same air, the dust
Hmm.
mites. I mean, eventually that's going to catch up to you,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
just make you a real grouchy person. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I mean, I've definitely been grouchy during this COVID from time to time, given that
Hmm.
everything is remote now. So it's like spending all day out. Thank God I have a window. But if I
Yeah.
didn't, I'd probably be like how you see those movies with prisoners in maximum security, and they just got the soft cushion on the sides, and they're just all all. So yeah, I mean that's what I imagine if there was no window, and plus
Yeah.
I enjoy being outside, so
Hmm.
knowing that even like when I do go for the long walks that I'm still contributing. Sometimes I feel bad, like oh man, I didn't do really something that I really sweated today, like, and sometimes
Hmm.
I feel like I'm doing myself a disservice. But it's nice to know
Hmm.
that even a walk is still good enough for time being. It's not
Yeah. No,
you don't have to
definitely.
do the intense 20-hour
Hmm.
thing every day.
Yeah.
So just for someone who's a newbie into all of this, what would you recommend now that you're certified? You got some street cred out there. What would you say is an ideal schedule? You said that you had a buddy, right? What's an
Hmm.
ideal I know everyone's body's different, but what's the average schedule you think people can stick to, and it's not going to hurt them, or just be something that's realistic that they can physically do?
Hmm. I would say starting out maybe once or twice a week would be good enough if you're doing more intense strength based exercises, even if that's just home workouts without any weights. If you're doing squats or if you're doing push ups or anything like that, any kind of resistance training, I would say start off with once, maximum twice a week. And that way you kind of get your body adjusted to the physical activity that you're doing. In terms of the lighter stuff, like going out for walks, I mean, you can do that honestly, however often you want to. That's never going to hurt you. Obviously, if you're overexerting, then that's a different story. But if it's just something that is helping you clear your mind or helping your body move a little bit, even if it's like a 5-10 minute stretching
Mm,
routine, that you can do daily or however often you
I
feel is
see.
necessary.
Thank you for sharing that. This is very important. I'm always curious, like, how do people like actually do this, right? So it's like I always see it on TV or on Instagram, and everyone's like, they're already fit already. I'm like, damn, how do they get there though? Like, I want to see them have the failures, the tumbles, the I almost gave up moments.
Mhm.
But
Oh
like that
yeah.
Rocky Balboa kind of thing where you're like, I could do that. I could beat up some meat after work. How about diet? Speaking,
Mm,
how about diet? I'm just curious. Like I know everyone's diet's different too, different cultures, different
mhm.
ways of cooking. What tends to work for you, or just most people, in your opinion?
Diet is a big thing, and for me, I have a huge sugar craving, so that's one of my biggest downfalls.
Oh, Halloween's coming up.
I know it's difficult for sure to control and to keep yourself on a schedule. What I've been experimenting with throughout quarantine is cooking different recipes and just finding creative ways of making the same thing. So, for example, if you're a meat eater, chicken and turkey are going to be much less fat content than beef or pork, but you can only do so much with chicken or turkey. At least I could only do so much. And pre quarantine, I didn't cook at all. So,
Hmm.
it really took me a lot of time to sit down and think about like how do I change it up so that I'm not eating the exact same things every day, Yeah, I think also just not being too hard on yourself when you have cheat days. I think that it's really easy to get caught up in this really strict diet and then not being able to keep up with it and then giving up afterwards and start binging and eating everything back again. So definitely take it easy and do like maybe change one thing about your diet at a time and then give it a couple of weeks or maybe even a month and then start adding new things to it. And that's
I
a good
see.
way to help you keep consistent.
I see. So since
Yeah.
we live in a community, whether it's digital or physical, whether it's family or friends, everyone's got an opinion about what we do, right? Always, right?
Hmm.
Even ourselves, right? So, like, have you ever done anything regarding fitness or even career-wise? And everyone's kind of like, I don't get it, or I don't understand, or why are you doing that, or just being super judgmental. Has that ever been like an issue for you?
Um, I think for the most part, my friends have been pretty supportive about what I do. I think it's more of an internal struggle that I have. Um, and I mean, I think part of it just stems from growing up in an Asian household where, you're always striving to be the best and do the best, and it's never good enough. And I think that a lot of the times I just never felt like I was good enough to start something. And I think that's why it's taken me so long to jumpstart my dance and my fitness part of my life. Because in my mind, it's always been like, oh, there's so many people out there that are better than me. Like, what makes me qualified to do this
Mm,
versus other people? And I think getting over that fear is probably one of the biggest hurdles that I have to go through. Yeah.
any tips that you give someone to get over that hurdle? Because seems like you successfully gotten past the most hardest part, which is yourself.
Yeah. Um, it's tough for sure,
Hmm.
but I think that not letting other people discourage you or not letting your own insecurities discourage you. I know that's easier said than done, because you're
Hmm.
always overthinking about where you're not qualified, but kind of looking at how much you yourself has grown and looking at the amount of passion that you have towards that thing, and it's like thinking about the amount of effort that you're willing to put into it to develop something and really not caring, just putting yourself out there and not being afraid to fail.
So you think that's what it is? Like, just in your opinion, like it's just the idea of failing that kind of that makes us cringe a little bit about doing something or jumping into something, especially the self doubt that comes in after a while. I think it's
Yeah,
that.
I think it's afraid of failing and also afraid of other people judging you, especially in this day and age where social media is so big and you see all of these influencers out there with perfect bodies or like perfect this, perfect that, and you're like,
Yeah.
how am I ever going to compare it to that? And you start having these unrealistic expectations for yourself, and you start comparing yourself to other people and to all of these influencers and just constantly in this mindset of I'm not good enough and
Hmm.
I have so much more to
Hmm.
grow before I get to a place of stability.
I see. And with your Instagram, I noticed you had a before and after shot. how was it difficult to do that? One and two, were you nervous? Like what was going through your mind when you posted that? Did you take it down, put it back up again, change the caption? What did you? How did you go about that?
Yeah, so when I was first going to post it, I was like really excited. Obviously, I was like, "Oh my god, look at my progress!" And I remember when I was about to post it, I actually stared at my picture for like at least half an hour, being like, "Should I post it? Like, will people think that like this is not a big enough change? Like,
Uh-huh.
people have changed like so much in 4 weeks, and here I am in 6 months, and like it hasn't really changed that much." And I'm like, I don't know, like, will people think that I'm legit and all this? It was like
It's
a lot
photoshopped.
for sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so no, definitely I went through a lot of
Mhm.
self doubts
Yeah.
before posting it. But then another part of me was kind of like, you know what, I don't need to be perfect before I show my progress, and it's like everyone progresses at a different rate. And I also want people to see that they can progress at different rates or they can progress at slower rates, and that's totally fine as long as they see a progression in the work that they've done.
Wow, that's amazing what you just said. Because I know whoever's listening to this who had doubts or just it's good to just hear it from someone who's actually doing
Hmm.
it, not like the
Yeah.
guy who's like, "Yeah, get healthy," and let me stand by a cool Ferrari and just tell you how to live your life. You're physically doing it, so it's awesome. And no shade to Photoshop. I mean, some people do some great stuff, but that's how you sleep at night. We're gonna do something different here. We're actually gonna put it to work here, real life. So isn't it crazy that we have to like not that we have to, but we tend to stumble upon doing these types of things are fairly socially what's the word socially feeling social anxiety, like,
Hmm.
and it's weird because it's sometimes you think, oh my god, it's all in my head, but who
Hmm.
knows how many other people, countless of other people who are thinking the same exact thing, and they might never put that post out because of
Hmm.
what you just said, what you described. Um,
Right.
but one thing I did notice that your journey so far isn't just about getting fit, right? I noticed there's also a social justice element to it. I don't know if
Mm,
I don't want to
yeah.
categorize it for you, but
Yeah.
can you talk about that a little aspect about that?
Yes, sure.
Hmm.
So that was actually a pretty big turning point in my whole fitness journey. So towards the beginning of quarantine, my mom actually started this like Chinese folk dancing club back in Jersey, where we're from, and it's been going on for a couple of years. It's just some ladies in the community who get together every week
Hmm.
and they learn a different choreography and kind of get their bodies moving. And obviously, after quarantine, they weren't able to do that physically anymore. So that's when my mom contacted me and was like, "Hey, do you want to come and teach some like cardio dance classes over Zoom?" And then I was like, "I mean, I have nothing better to do. I don't really have much experience, but whatever. This sounds like something fun." So, and it was just for my mom's friends anyway, so it was like very casual.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, so it was actually much harder than I thought it was going to be because you have like 1 hour of like cardio dance choreography and it's all different and it's
Hmm.
all choreographed to a specific part of the song. So I was like, wow, this is actually a lot. Yeah, so it really started off with me just watching YouTube videos. That's how it started, and then obviously the more I did them, the more experience I got. I was able to actually add in some Latin dance aspects, and I choreographed things myself, and I started adding in like a workout aspect as well,
Hmm.
and it really helped a lot in training myself of how to teach classes, how to get feedback from people, and how to change things up so that things are interesting, but also explain it clearly enough so that they understand. So that went on for like a couple months, and then end of May, which was the killing of George Floyd, and that's when the entire BLM movement just erupted.
Hmm.
That's kind of when I started thinking about like my priorities and evaluating what it is I wanted to do with my life and how me as an individual was able to make or am able to make an impact on the world. It's like you see all of these big companies or like multi-million uh, people donating a ton of money to these organizations, and you're kind of like, oh, I'm just one person. Like, what difference can I actually make?
Hmm.
And then that's kind of when I had the idea to do like an open donation based cardio dance fitness class. It was actually my first ever like public class, and I've wanted to start teaching for a while, but I've the whole self doubt thing. I've always just been like really afraid, and I was like, no one's gonna come to my classes. Like I'm not qualified enough. But during that time of my life, I was like, you know what, like this is something that I want to do because I want to use my skills to contribute to something greater, you know.
Hmm.
And I was like, you know, it's donation based, it's for a good cause, and I think that people would really support it. So that's kind of how I started my first donation based class, and I was actually able to partner with one of my friend's companies, and we ended up raising like over $3,000 from that class, which was amazing. I was completely mind blown. Like I did not expect that at all, and it really made me realize that, you know, one person can have a much bigger voice. Now, like you think that you're just an individual, but even if you're just resharing resources, I've had a couple of people who DM'd me and was like, "Hey, thank you so much for sharing this. You know, I didn't know this information until I saw it in your story," and I was like, "Oh wow, you know, like it's just like a 5 second effort on my part, but it helps educate other people, you know, and it helps bring other people together." And yeah, so with the success of that class, I launched like a month long program where it was a 5 week program, and every week we donated to a different cause supporting BLMs, different organizations supporting BLM.
Hmm.
So that was kind of like a follow up to the initial class, and I kind of just wanted to keep the momentum going to, you know, to be like, hey guys, you know, like it wasn't just a one time thing. Like I'm still fighting for the cause, and I'm still trying to use whatever I can to make a difference, you know. And I think that's really what sparked my interest in wanting to actually open this up to something bigger.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Now everyone knows how you came to this
Yeah.
moment. I first and foremost admire that
Thank you.
130,000%. If that's a percentage, that's real. Maybe you can tell me. You're more of the mathematician than I am, but this is something that I've struggled with. It's like, man, I don't know. I'm just one person. I don't feel like I have an impact here. Like, I don't feel like I
Mhm.
can do it. And just seeing you do it, it was just, I guess, actions just speak louder than words. You look at that and you're like, wow, this is cool. She's merging this, and this, and she's finding somehow some way to make it happen. And it's
Mhm.
like, you look happy doing it. You don't look miserable doing it. Like you're doing it because someone's forcing you,
Right. Right.
or you're not doing it in a way that felt so like dramatic, and like it was obviously orchestrated to just
Hmm.
get money, and just
Yeah.
suck out, every effort towards BLM. And it's like, it felt genuine. It felt like
Hmm.
something like, wow, this is real. Hold up, this is real. Let me check this out. This is real. This has been really cool. I really appreciate you gave me a nice broad stroke of where your life has been. Where do you see your life going now? I know we're still in COVID, but like,
Hmm.
what's the future look like for you?
um, I think I really want to start, obviously, developing the whole fitness aspect of my life. I think that one of the most important things I need to do is find a niche for myself. I think that's one of the things that I've been, I don't want to say struggling, but like kind of struggling, you know, because I'm trying to balance between doing something that's so targeted that the market is so small versus something that is, you know, much more widely received, but then the market is more saturated, you know. And I think that
Hmm.
I really want to bring in like my passion for Latin dance into fitness, and I want to find a way to, you know, somehow mold them together
Hmm.
to be something different, but it's also something that I personally enjoy and I'm passionate about. And hopefully, when that happens, I don't know, just get bigger, and hopefully, you know, run a legit business, which would
Hmm.
be super cool. And it's yeah, like not something that I ever really thought about before this year.
Cool. Wow, what a major transformation! Like, it's crazy.
Hmm.
Well, first and foremost, I want to give you sending my all my good vibes your way to make all that happen. All right. So
Thank you.
this is we're like watching it as it unfolds. So this is really
Hmm.
cool. I don't know
Yeah.
if you believe in like the destiny has been written already, but if it is, it's unfolding right before us, which is great. And I'm sure whoever's listening to this right now is a super fan of you. So, is
Oh.
there anything that you want them to just be part of, or just know about, or you want to give yourself a plug, something like that? You want to tell them where they can find you? The list can go on. Do you write a blog? Is there something they need to know? Like, oh, I could check this every Thursday at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, so I recently started my fitness account, which is on Instagram at flex by Feifei. So it's flex.by.feifei, Feifei. So you can follow me on there as I continue to explore my fitness journey, I guess. And I'm going to be having regular classes soon for Pit 28. So they're probably going to be online, and there's probably going to be some special events throughout the coming months before it gets too cold. So be on the lookout for that happening as well. So.
Is there anything else that you want to leave with the audience? Anything you want to share with them? Anything at all?
It's never too late to start. So, taking the first step is always the hardest, but as long as you do it, you're going to feel much better afterwards, and you're going to thank yourself for it.
That's so cool. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you, all the things you're doing, you're following, and just where your heart's at. It's really important to highlight people like yourself and give you a platform to speak upon your journey so other people can maybe look underneath this rock and say, wow, hey, I could do this too.